So I start at this spot for two reasons. One, because then most of you aren't facing the sun. And that is always a good thing. The problem with Tel Gezer and many other sites is that there isn't a lot of shade. So being here as early in the morning is important. The second reason, and that's the more important one, I came here, is from here we can overlook what happened just beyond this little tell, this little hill. It just becomes flat. And then we can see the area of Lod and Ramle, and in that direction Rehovot and so on. It just flat. So you already understand that this spot was built here, or the ancient city was built here because it dominates what?
All the coastal plain.
Maris. It doesn't
Via
go
Maris,
along the sea. It's right next to the sea. It's a little bit in, and this dominates. So that's one thing. And this site exists at least from the Middle Bronze Age into the Late Bronze Age, into the Iron Age, and comes out of use in the Roman and Byzantine period, which means there's a hill, a city here for many, many years. How do I know this is Tel Gezer? Just because Oren said it's Tel Gezer, it becomes the place?
Inscription
How
maybe.
do we identify ancient sites?
By,
Remember what we need?
by
We
the
need-
resources, biblical.
Wait. We need a name. But we need to check what the name that was preserved here was, and we'll do that all day long, don't worry. The other thing we want to check is that it geographically connects to the sources we have. I'll give you an example. In the first book of Kings, I think it's chapter 4, but I don't remember at the moment. I'll open later and check. We have Pharaoh from Egypt coming up into the land in the days of Solomon as king, conquering Gezer and giving it as a dowry for his daughter marrying Solomon. By the way, the verse is very unclear who's giving what to whom, but I'll just say it in the simple way of understanding, which means it needs to be along the way, right?
Yeah.
Geographically. The third thing we look for in the site is archaeological evidence from the period that is equivalent. And as I said, this exists in the Middle Bronze Age, Late Bronze Age, Iron Age, and so on, so that's great. So what's the name of the site?
Giza.
So, just before we get to what it means, we need to ask what the name is. And in the survey of Western Palestine that happened in the 1860s and 70s, run by the PEF, the Palestine Exploration Fund, you already heard of these names before, what the researchers did, they just walked the land and asked the local farmers and shepherds and whoever they met, what's the name of that hill? What's the name of that hill? And sometimes the shepherd did not know, so what did he say? Musharif. Which means? I don't know. So what did the British researcher write? Musharif. Yes, we have a few of those. Not many, but a few of those. And here, when they asked the locals, they pointed at Sheikh Gezer and Tel Gezer. So it was very, very clear for the early researchers that knew their Bible very well in the 1870s that this apparently is Tel Gezer. It also fits geographically, also the name, you can't miss it. And then the question is, what does the main name mean? So one option is carrot, Gezer in Hebrew. Of course, apparently that is not the idea. Maybe it's something cut. Why? Maybe this place cuts your access and actually dominates it. We're not really sure why, but many years later, Kibbutz Gezer was founded just a little bit northeast of us. So that is the name and the identification. And with that in mind, already in the end of the 19th century, researchers came here to dig Gezer. How do you dig an excavation?
Survey.
Start from the top and slowly go down, right?
Yes.
They worked with dozens of workers, much more than they do in modern excavations. So they opened a very large space very quickly. But then they had a very big problem, what to do with all the dirt. So they did this. They dug a trench, dumped all the dirt to the side. And then they dug the next trench and threw all the dirt on the first trench. So actually half of Gezer is upside down because they took it and flipped it over. So Gezer has a very big problem. There's sites that we cannot keep on the excavation because everything is totally messed up. But they of course expose many things we will get to soon enough. And the name of the researcher in charge here was McAllister. And we will mention him again later on as well, because he also worked in a different location. So this is Tel Gezer. So we have a Middle Bronze Age city. What do the Middle Bronze Age cities have?
Fortifications.
Fortifications.
Water
massive,
resources.
Massive earth fills to make them high. And almost all of them have
Water.
a water system. Whatever it is, every site with its own way, a water system. So if we have a Middle Bronze Age, we look for that. In the Late Bronze Age, what we have all over this land is a very helpful source, and that is the Egyptian El Amarna archive. I am sorry, I'm holding the Hebrew book with all the archive, but it exists, all translated. It's one of the most boring archives in the world. Well, maybe archives actually boring as is. And almost all of them say the same thing.
Food.
I am the only one loyal to you, or my great master Pharaoh. All the rest are lying to you. There are about 350 letters that all say the same thing, all written within the same 15 years. But within these 15 or a little bit more years, in Gezer we have 3 different names of governors. And Gezer is mentioned in about 10 of these letters. Jerusalem is mentioned in a few. Shem, Lachish, and many more cities, part of them that we know where they are, part of them that we don't know where they are. So Malki'ilu was the governor of Gezer, and later on he was apparently replaced by others, and he claims that he's the only loyal one. Please believe only me, my great master Pharaoh. All the rest are just lying to you. I need the food, I need the archers to protect my caravans against the others. So in the Late Bronze Age, the land is actually divided into small city-states fighting each other and claiming they are loyal. I won't even bother to read anything from it. So that is the background into this period. But where is Gezer in the tribes of Israel? Right, we need 2 things. This and
No, it should be a border of Judah.
So when we look at the tribes of Israel in the book of Joshua, we have many different tribes that each and every one receives its space. So where are we? Who controls this area? And for that we need to go quickly to the tribes of Ephraim. Very good. Who said that? Other. Very good. So Ephraim, where is Ephraim? For that we'll need to go on and see. And let's see if we can get the whole list and not get stuck. I'm in Joshua 17. Let's see if we find it quickly and not going through every verse, right?
We still have 1 hour and a half.
I know. Okay.
Yep.
So unfortunately, in the tribe of Ephraim, they don't write each and every name of city, but they do mention this. I'm in Joshua 16 verse 10. And the people of Ephraim did not conquer the Canaanites that sat in Gezer. And therefore the Canaanites sat within the people of Ephraim till this day and became people that were taken for labor works for the people of Ephraim, which means apparently there was some control, but not totally. But wait a minute, where are we? Ephraim here?
No.
Ephraim in here.
No,
Or
it's not
even
here.
Dan. Do you all know Gush Dan,
Gush
the Dan
Dan.
area?
Yes,
The
Dan.
Dan area, that's where the urban center is today, and that's why their bus company is called
Yes,
Dan,
Dan, yeah.
even though they might change the light rail into it. I don't know. They should. But Dan is nearby, and Judah is east of us.
yes,
That's
yeah.
really weird. How did Ephraim infiltrate so far southwest? So to answer that, we need to quickly take this map. This is a very annoying map. Can you grab an edge? Thank you. A very annoying map, and it's almost here standing not bad in understanding the space. We have the Jordan Valley, the mountains, the lowlands, the valleys. You see each and every one of them has its curves. We are in this area right here. Okay, right here in this area. And Ephraim controls this.
Yes.
So this is really, really weird. But that's what it says. Which means, just like Shimon and Yehuda mingle into each other in the south in the Beersheba district, so apparently do other tribes not fully actually have a open organized space, but actually coming into each other. And later today we'll deal with Dan and Yehuda as well. So apparently this area was the messy space. Why? Because we're in the lowlands and in the flat plains where the
They come from?
Canaanites
Canaanites.
have an advantage over the Israelites, and the advantage is chariots.
Chariots.
You can't use chariots up in the mountains. Here, no one can actually stop the chariot army of the Canaanites, and that therefore this area wasn't conquered as much as others. So whatever tribe was able to grab in might actually take. And if you're too weak, you withdraw and don't even try. And that's actually what happened to Dan. But that's we're telling you what happens in the future. So that was our starting point. Where are we? What can we see? What's the name of this place? And what is its identification using our information? But when we talked about identifying sites, there was one more thing we said that sometimes helped us. Inscriptions. And Gezer is one of the few sites in the land that the name Gezer was found written not once, not twice, 12 times. But not in Gezer itself. All around it. And in the Roman, and apparently maybe a little bit into the Byzantine period, they marked in Hebrew and in Greek on a stone in about a mile away or a little bit less from Tel Gezer, all around. 12 of these stones were discovered. Not all of them still exist. Where it says Tchum Gezer. In Hebrew, the space or the district of Gezer. And then on the other side, in Greek, a name. Part of the name was Alkios. Apparently the owner of the space beyond. So there's the space of the city of Gezer, and there's the space owned by someone else. Who cares? Why should someone mark that all around the site?
It's a border.
It's the border where I take taxes and where you are in charge of taxes. Or in addition, and that's something in Jewish law, in halacha, there's the space around the city where you are allowed to walk around during Saturday, during Sabbath. And apparently that is about a mile in total. And you can actually see where you're allowed to be walking around during Saturday and what is beyond that and considered violating Saturday because you are making a long distance walk. So that apparently is an identification that tells us two things. One, that the inhabitants here in the late Roman or close enough there period were also a Jewish population of the site. How much of that period was discovered? Barely anything in the site itself. Most of the finds are much more ancient, and that's also because the excavators in the beginning of the 20th century were much more interested in the ancient finds and not the newer ones, and they removed the newer ones very, very quickly. So are we set? We can go?
Yeah.
No,
Not yet.
questions?
Yes, Via Maris, passing from here.
Not here,
No here.
in the plains west of us.
Okay.
And roughly where the construction, where the city is
Yeah, yeah.
just in front.
Thank you.
So we're facing